barbaric manifestation of imperialism, of neo-colonialism, of the enslavement that we are being imposed on us today. This is what we have called terrorism. But as they have said, we have called upon the youth at a given time to fight this fear, and the youth responded massively.
This is a wake-up call to the African leaders to take inventory of what is really happening in their countries. Do they really need the peanuts that are coming in as aid? You have your natural resources. You have everything you need to take care of your people. Why do you continue to be beggars? You take, for example, cocoa. Majority of the cocoa coming out of the world comes from West Africa, and yet it's only recently that African nations were allowed to add value to their cocoa. President Traore is standing up. He is saying the natural resources in Burkina Faso, they belong to the people of Burkina Faso. Niger is doing the same thing. Mali is doing the same thing. Every leader must look at what's happening in the Sahel nations to say, like anybody else, you must take care of your people. You see, it takes two to tango. If President Trump does not want a relationship with Africa, Africans shouldn't be begging for it. Africans must take a position and protect their turf. China wants to come and exploit Africa, they'll get away with it to the extent that Africans allow them. I think that what was done to brainwash black people around the world, long before they even left Africa, we are still suffering from that legacy of colonization, the legacy of slavery, where the people in power, they themselves don't believe they can do it. We still have leaders who believe you can't make it unless you're working with white people. We have individuals who think only something brought in by white people is what's likely to succeed. With that kind of mentality, it is a very difficult battle. Our battle to succeed, to unite as the African continent.
Hello brothers and sisters, I really hope you're all doing fine from wherever you are watching me from. Do you really believe this is the time the African continent and the diaspora and the Caribbean shall unite? Now, Ibrahim Traoré, the leader of Burkina Faso, has caught the attention of so many other people, the black community around the world, because of his intense message of uniting the black community and bringing the development that we need in Africa, the Caribbean, and across the diaspora. So let's listen to this special speech, then have a really quick discussion at the end of it. Thank you so much.
Who are moving across Africa to come and support their brothers and their comrades in Burkina Faso. We say thank you. We wish you a very good stay in Burkina Faso, and we wish that you can return in peace and also send the message to the place of all African youth. Because the fight we are leading is not only for Burkina Faso, but it is a fight for all of Africa. It is time to wake up, and that we are no longer led to cross the ocean, to die, to go and look for El Dorado in 2021. We can create it here. Put your work, and I think it is possible.
Commencer mon propos en remerciant Dieu Tout-Puissant qui nous a permis donc de nous retrouver ici en bonne santé ce matin.
I would like to start my speech by thanking God Almighty, who allowed us to be here in good health this morning to celebrate the International Day of Youth. Youth of which I am of course part, even if there are some people who are courageous by age, but they are young in the head. Thank you all. We celebrate this day in a somewhat particular context, as the predecessors have signified, this context of conflict. This conflict that we call nothing more than the violent. Today, several young people are enrolled as VDP and others are waiting. We can see them through the arteries of our cities. This touches our hearts, and we dare to believe that the youth have understood why we must fight. If our ancestors fought to give us land that we call today Burkina Faso, this means that we must also fight to give something to our children. If God has made our generation confront this fight today, it is because He knows that we have the capacity to do so. 208. I know how to count on everyone to make it happen. The fight is not only military on the ground, but the fight is much deeper. In this sense, we must also fight to change the mentality. Our generation may have grown up in a system that shaped us, which is very difficult to change, perhaps, but not impossible. Perhaps among us, some still find themselves with characters that we do not know how to deal with. But I like to say, to quote an author, there is no meaner man who cannot change his heart if we teach him how to have wisdom. I think that each of us can change. In this sense, it goes without saying that we can forgive ourselves. when someone is not on the path we hope for, but at the same time, we teach him the right ways so that we can change. Because the fatal weapon of imperialism today is manipulation, and youth is the target. Our country, or I would say Africa, is mostly young, and youth is the target of this manipulation. And when we discover it, we must fight it. And most of the time, imperialism is not necessarily those who come from elsewhere, but they are among us. 337. And it is among us that manipulation is born. I invite youth to leave it, to always seek the right information, and to always think of our countries, of our different countries, everywhere in Africa. I repeat, if our forefathers left us a land that we found, we must leave a better land for our children. In this sense, today, we are gathered to talk about the problems of youth. We are going to make certain promises, to see perspectives, but also to challenge ourselves. I think that the parents and the nanny challenged you, and the minister wanted to give each of you 300 francs. But I think the challenge goes beyond that, because youth must also understand something. We, at the level of the executive, we take measures. But we also need to talk to you, to raise awareness, so that together we can raise the challenges that are today posed to us. Why do I say this? Because when they tell their stories, we realize that they fought together to get there. Today, as the minister said, instructions have been given so that we can create a single fund that can support youth in entrepreneurship. We will not ask you to start from scratch, but there will be a minimum to accompany you and help you.
Nous allons nous faire des promesses, certes, voir des perspectives, mais aussi se lancer des défis. Je pense que le parrain et la marraine...
At the same time, there is very little time. We have done everything to expand everything that is taxation at the level of young companies that will have to be created. This is to accompany you, so that you do not find yourself confronted in the first few years with certain difficulties. In addition to all this, I think, as he announced, we think a lot about professional training. This is one of the major reforms of this department. I think that when I went to university, I was well informed. It is not about working today, having a diploma, and looking to be employed. 549. It is also about learning jobs and being able to exercise them. Chapitre. So we are looking today to reorient a good part of the youth towards professional employment. This means that we will have to build a lot of professional training centers and be able to teach a lot of jobs to young people, because here we have a lot of resources. There are enough reforms in favor of youth that are underway. Throughout the world, we have been able to understand that we can get there, because we have enough resources to bring value to the outside world. For example, we are currently focused on agriculture, which is very important to us. Because, as I said earlier, food self-sufficiency is a fight. It is a fight because when we talk about dignity, we talk about honor. If you are not self-sufficient, you have no dignity. When a father has to go home at night and has no seed to put in his son's plate, he cannot talk about dignity. The whole family will live in indignity because the woman will have to fight as hard as she can in all the ways. You can imagine to find food. There is no dignity once you have eaten your fill. There is no dignity when we reach out. Do you see this new form of neo-colonialism that we are talking about, which is trying to bring our youth back to demands, to chronic austerity? We are fighting against this. When you say to a partner, who is ready to serve you with mobile money, up to 100 billion, but when you say to this same partner, no, serve with mobile money up to 20 billion and 80 billion. We will do structural projects, agricultural production for the youth, they do not agree. It must challenge us. The goal is to keep you in this permanent system. It is to prevent you from being able to produce yourself and get by. And every time, we will give you a little and we will tell you to stay there. Do not be afraid to undertake. Do not be afraid to undertake. You have to start. 806. It is hard, often very hard. You will stumble. You will often find yourself on your knees. As some would say, take advantage, make a prayer, press on the palm, get up, and always walk. Never stop. And even those who have a job somewhere, do not just stick to your job. Try to invest. Try to develop something else in parallel. Because since, as I told you, our generation is in a fairly complex system, we may have been taught that you just need to have a job. An office and we sit down and that's it. The salary falls at the end of the month. It can't make you happy. It can't. Your salary must be used to develop something else. We are military. I have also been an entrepreneur for a few years as a young man, because we are only allowed to do agriculture, farming. I think the speakers who put that in the texts, they understood very well. 9-10, and we participate in that. We have tried. We have seen that it is hard. 9-15. But most of the time, when we persevere, we can end up rubbing our hands. 9-20. So I encourage you not to be discouraged. For those who are looking to start a business, never be discouraged. You have to start again. The path is always full of obstacles, but you must not stop, because you will end up here. We are extremely rich here in Burkina. We think so. Today, we decided to reorganize our society a little. Certainly, some texts or some conventions that had been signed were very constraining. It made our country have a hard time getting out of it. Today, thanks to you, we are rereading a lot of texts to try to give our nations what they deserve. It is in this sense that when we take, for example, the theft of gold, your theme is about the employability of rural young people. Many of our young people today are on the production site, in the most painful conditions. This is perhaps what happened in Europe, or in America in the 1800s, when men went into galleries that they dug themselves to get the ore out.
Parce que nous ne sommes autorisés qu'à faire que l'agriculture, l'élevage. Je pense que les dévanciers qui ont mis ça dans...
Our young people continue to experience this at the risk of their lives. We are trying today to modernize a little. It is at the end of this that we created the Sonaspe, a society that will allow us to be able to exploit and commercialize our precious substances, especially gold. The gold that young people exploit, that other people come to buy at a low price, and that contributes to feed terrorism that comes out of the country. Without our having any control, we decided to create this society to try to regain control of our mining sites and to allow the young people who are there to produce in a more mechanized and respectful way. We also want each region to be able to produce a specialty. This could certainly be in the domain of agriculture, because we have immense potential. We have natural water reserves, lakes a little everywhere across the country, rivers that flow and dams here and there, but which are not exploited. We are trying to launch in each region. And that is why here I am announcing that there will be a representative of each region at the level of the presidency as head of mission. This process is underway. These people will therefore have to take the concerns of the youth, and especially of the women who fight day and night, so that we can act in a progressive way where we have to act. Because this fight that we have today against terrorism is not only done by weapons, but also by development. As long as the youth have no jobs, they will always be tempted to go where it is easy to have money. And that's also what we have to fight. We have already identified many poles, and that we will very soon, at the end of the fortified season, through the presidential initiative, but also through the Ministry of Agriculture, which has a very good database, and that we have given a special mission so that we can achieve food self-sufficiency. Within each region, we will value these water points and these reserves that we have, and we will support as much as possible the young people. So, it's inviting everyone to get to work and to be able to give another face to our country. There are many other projects in progress, and we will not be able to detail everything here. I think that as and when the ministry will get to work, through the National Council of Young People, and through this complex that you are going to build, I suppose that it will be the major incubator that will be able to impact all the initiatives in favor of young people in the different regions. I would like to tell you, and I insist on it, not to be afraid of taking risks. Entrepreneurship is about risk. We have expanded everything that is taxation. It is a message to young people. Initiate something. Do not be afraid to take risks. No risk, no pleasure. Take risks. We will support you as much as we can. And for those who are currently fighting, we are trying to do as much as possible to give everything they need. This is the place for me to pay homage to all these young people who have committed themselves as VDP, who are today on the ground, in the rain, in the fog, in the mud. wherever they are asked to go. They are fighting on the ground to try to reclaim our land and give to this country what we call territorial integrity. And everyone at his level must therefore be able, without taking Kalashnikov, to take something else to participate in the development of this country. And that, we only count on you, young people. I told the parents and the Navy that I was going to lend a hand to these great economic operators of the country. And I think some are there. So get ready, we will lend you a hand to create initiatives for young people. We have therefore launched the APEC, in this sense, to create what we call the companies that we want to put in place. And because we say it, it is inconceivable that we can produce tomatoes here and that we import tomato paste. It is absurd that we have all the oleogenic products here and that we cannot transform them. We have launched this and I invite you to subscribe massively, because we are going to create our companies here on site and develop them. Certainly, imperialist spirits may try to divert you from the goal, but listen, aim far. Aim very far. Think and see what we want to do. So thank you to all these young people who are moving across Africa to come and support their brothers and their comrades in Burkina Faso. We say thank you. We wish you a very good stay in Burkina Faso, and we wish that you can return in peace and also send the message to the place of all African youth. Because the fight we are leading is not only for Burkina Faso, but it is a fight for all of Africa. It is time to wake up, and that we are no longer led to cross the ocean, to die, to go and look for El Dorado in 2021. We can create it here. Put your work, and I think it is possible. So thank you for coming to accompany us in this moment of sharing and reflection. On this, I would like to tell you to stay on guard, because the fight that has begun will be long.
When General Langley got on TV and said Ibrahim Traoré is a danger to the people of Burkina Faso and we need to go over there and save the people of Burkina Faso from Ibrahim Traoré. That is a ill order. That is the same message that they put out on Muammar Gaddafi before they toppled Libya. And now the women in Libya, just like Sudan, are being raped. And the children are being sold in slave markets. And now Donald Trump got on a meeting just the other day and said even if we wanted to go into Libya, we can't, because the situation has collapsed so bad, there is no more Libya. That is what the Western media has said. And that is what they want to do to Burkina Faso. Do not look and say this is Burkina Faso. It has nothing to do with Ghana. Because if they collapse Burkina Faso, it will spill over into Ghana. Make no mistake about it. Yeah. So this is a test from God for everybody. That's true. Because when Kwame and Nkrumah came, we are humans. We make mistakes. But we allowed the West to turn us against a Sasha. Yes. And we danced on top of his broken statues. And we celebrated when he was overthrown. He was all over the continent building what we know as the Casablanca Group, which was a Pan-African group, the first group to say United Africa now. And they put the Moravian group to say, in the least time possible. Well, 60 years have passed, and now Ibrahim Traoré says time to continue what Thomas Sankara started, and they say, oh, not yet, not yet, not yet. We see that the Casablanca group was right, and the Moravian group was wrong. Yeah. It is time for us to right our errors and our wrongs. There is plenty of reason for us to take this personal, because Kwame Nkrumah is watching us right now. Yes. And he said, if you want to be free as Ghanaians, show me that you have changed. Yes. Right now. Show me that your mentality is different. It is our time. There is a new Casablanca group, and it is called the Sahel. And Chad is rising to join. Senegal.
Hello, brothers and sisters. I really hope you're all doing fine from wherever you are watching me from. Now, the leader of Burkina Faso, one of the most talked and followed leader around the world right now, has been a key attention to the many of the black community around the world. Now, he is a leader who has come out to show that Africa can change, and Africa does not need the Western powers to develop, or it doesn't need the Western powers to coexist. Now, this is a very different perspective about the leadership that we've had in Africa. It is very, very strange, and it is very, very exciting, because I say strange because we are not used to this. We are not used to leaders who can come out and expose the Western world to us, the leaders who can speak without fear or favor. Now, I'm really moved by the fact that Ibrahim Traoré has been doing a tremendous job in his own country. Now, this should actually tell us that if we could be having some good leaders across Africa, there is no any other country in Africa that could be called third world right now. That we've had leaders who have gone to bed with the oppressors. Those leaders who think that the Western countries are the alpha and omega of this world, that Africa cannot exist on itself, that Africa cannot have development until someone must go and kneel before the Western powers to ask for grant, of which they loot almost everything before even they reach into the government coffers in their own countries. Now, I want you to know about something that is happening to Africa, which is very, very strange. Now, did you know that most of these corrupt leaders in Africa are being sponsored and being supported by the Western systems? Now, if you really get a leader who is not corrupt, a leader who is focused on developing his country, a leader who is really focused on bringing development to their countries, now, this is where the Western world chips in to eliminate them, because they want corrupt systems, they want corrupt leaders, they want rogue and dictators in Africa. Why do they need that? It's because it is easy to control them when they are rogue. It is easy to control dictators because it is just one turn away from the people, just using their media, tarnishing their name in one way or the other, and that's it, you know. And it is so easy to deal with corrupt leaders in Africa because the Western countries do not need or do not want to see a developed Africa, because a developed Africa is a threat to the Western world. Where will they dispose their bad goods? Where will they take their second-hand cars? Where will they take their second-hand clothes? You know, it is very sad. And I've seen countries in Africa where they import a lot of second-hand clothes because the Western has rejected them, you know, and where they import a lot of second-hand vehicles, you know, the rejected ones, those that pollute their weather. But in Africa, they do not pollute the weather, you know. So there is a lot that we are coming to learn from Ibrahim Traoré, and there is a lot that we can still learn from some good leadership in Africa. Africa does not have that many good leaders, you know. We've had a few. Even if you started mentioning good leaders in Africa, they do not exceed 10, you know. So these are the people who are trying to change the narrative, the people who are trying to change Africa, the people who are trying to bring development and showing the outside world that it is not always about you, that Africa can always develop on its own, that we do not entirely need your support to develop Africa. Now, let's imagine, for example, South Africa has a lot of mineral resources. DRC Congo has a lot of mineral resources. Burkina Faso has a lot of mineral resources. Now, a lot more other countries have mineral resources in Africa. There is a time gasoline was being given for free in Libya because they had a lot of it, you know. There is a time when almost every government service in Libya was free. Why did they terminate the likes of Muammar Gaddafi? Why did they do bad to Thomas Sankara? Why did they have to eliminate Patrice Lumumba of Congo? Why are they so much entitled to the leadership of Africa? Why do they think that the leadership of Africa is their responsibility? Now, as a matter of fact, Africa does not entirely meddle in the affairs of the Western countries. Never have you heard Africa going to a war that is not theirs. But they have always been everywhere in Africa, causing chaos, funding some bad groups in Africa to cause chaos and mayhem so that they can term some regimes as bad. But when a president sits in power for 42 years, they have no problem with that. When a president, a corrupt person, takes a country like his own property, they do not have a problem because he is their friend. But when we have a good leader like Ibrahim Traoré, when we had some good leaders who were speaking the truth across Africa, they had a problem with them just because, and I repeat, just because they were too good for their people. Which crime has Ibrahim Traoré committed? The crime of not allowing France to exploit their mineral resources at the expense of the black people in Burkina Faso. What crime has Mali committed? By kicking out the French military. That's the worst you can do to them, by saying no to the neocolonialism that is taking place across Africa. How many times have we been seeing people being massacred in countries like Kenya? How many times have we been seeing people disappearing and the opposition being silenced in countries like Uganda? How many times have we been seeing such things happening in countries like Tanzania? Why don't they have a problem with these countries? Because they have their puppets in power. But when a president comes out to express his insatisfaction with the Western systems that have been set in these countries, now they have a problem with that. When a president wants to work for his or her people, they have a problem with that. But even when you are so corrupt to the core, when even you massacre your own people, and do so many other bad stuff, but you still is their friend, they have no problem with you. In fact, they will cover up for you, and they will help you win the next election. They will manipulate the next election for you. There is a lot that is happening in Africa, but you won't hear the Western media reporting about that because their masters have told them where to report and where to have good news and where to direct the bad news, and where to manipulate when needed. So there is a lot that is happening, brothers and sisters, and it is us who must actually take the responsibility of doing whatever is good for ourselves. Let's protect the leaders who are actually carrying their interest, our interest at heart. A lot has been happening. Now, you go to some countries in Africa, it is so messed up. There is a country in Africa where the leader has been there, the president has been there for almost 46 years. They have no problem with that. The guy is 90 years old. Macron, the Western world, has no problem with that. But they have a problem with someone who has been in power for 2 years, but he has been changing the country. Now, that's where they have a real problem. But when we are having dictators who are their friends, when we are having corrupt people who are their friends, they have no problem with that. When is Africa going to change? When are we going to change these things? Black community. This is the time we should unite. I'm very, very glad to see that the black Americans and the black community in the diaspora from the Caribbean, UK, Canada, Mexico, Germany, Spain, they are all coming out to realize that Africa must unite, and African leaders who are so much good must get support. I saw the whole thing about Ibrahim Traoré, and the people went to the street to fight for Ibrahim Traoré in New York, in Texas, across the world, everywhere. Jamaicans, the Caribbeans, in the UK, and across so many other countries in Africa. Now, if we could be having these moments, if we could be having this energy and this type of love for our own brothers and sisters who are in leadership and doing the correct thing, we could have not lost Patrice Lumumba. We could have not lost Thomas Sankara. We could have not lost so many other good leaders in Africa and across the world. If we could give Malcolm X the support he wanted, if we could have given Martin Luther King the support they wanted, we could have a changed narrative right now. We could not be the same today. Brothers and sisters, it is our time, and we must not leave the next generation to suffer the same things we've suffered. If at all someone believes that they're very supreme and they should dictate whatever Africa does, let them look for another Africa. Let them go create their own continent, partition it into the same countries they did to Africa, name them after African countries, then let them have absolute control of that continent. But for Africa, the Caribbean and the diaspora, we are getting out of the colonial mentality. We are getting out of the utopia that we've been living in. And for this small reason, the Western countries are so much pissed off with the leaders who are trying to tell you the truth. A lot of lies has been told to us. A lot of lies has been installed in the systems that we believe should be leading us. A lot of lies has been told to you. A lot of brainwashing has been done to the previous generations. A lot of damage has been done. But this is the time we should have the damage control. However much it will cost us, we must unite and we must bring back the energy of the black man. We must bring the respect that this continent deserves. And Ibrahim Traoré has been on the forefront doing this. Let's have some other good leaders to join him, and we will have a better Africa. Thank you so much for having taken your time to watch this video. Appreciate so much, brothers and sisters. And if it's your first time on this channel, please consider subscribing, sharing, commenting, and liking the videos, so that this video can reach so many other people, so that the gospel of the unity that I always talk about does not just go to a few people. It does reach a multitude. It does reach a big audience, so that we can have a change in the black community. Thank you so much. See you in our next episode.